What's going on, everybody? Let's talk about data analysis, okay? In terms of Microsoft Excel and RStudio, two open source or free programs that you can get through whatever school or institution you're usually working with, okay? So over here on the left, this is a fresh data sheet or Microsoft Excel spreadsheet that has no data on it. And this is a freshly opened RStudio application, okay? And so let's start over here with our Microsoft Excel sheet. All Excel is, you can think of, is a data table, right? A table full of numbers or information that you're gonna treat as data that you're gonna be able to analyze using different techniques, adding, subtracting, and much more, okay? So within the Microsoft Excel program, you're gonna be able to do a good amount of functions, plotting, and more things. But also another cool thing you can do is you can actually save your data or this sheet of data as an Excel workbook file or a comma separated values file. And you're gonna be able to load it into RStudio in order to do analyses using the tools available with some simple coding, right? So plotting, coloring, logistic regression or linear regression. These are all techniques that we'll learn later down the road, right? But that's going to be available for you in this program as well. And so in this collection of videos, we're going to be looking at things you can do in both these programs, okay? And so just to start off, to give you a little idea of what we can do, let's take this brand new blank sheet and let's just say that we have some data on the number of pets in a city. So let's say number of cats, dogs, right? Number of fish in different cities, right? So let's just say LA, San Diego, San Francisco, let's say Oakland, right? Let's just start off with those. And this data sheet can go as far as you want. So you can include more animals if you'd like, more cities if you'd like. And the thing I want you to notice first is that the columns are gonna be denoted by letters, right? Whereas the rows are gonna be denoted by numbers. And so each of these boxes that we're gonna call a cell, right? That's the proper name. Each cell or box is gonna be represented by the letter, then the number, okay? So this is gonna be cell A1. This is gonna be cell C4. And notice that this green line, right? That tells you where you are, so you don't have to count across and up. And same thing here, this is gonna be F5, and so on and so forth, okay? And so what we can do is, let's fill in some numbers here, right? 15, 14, and I'm really doing this manually right now for you, just so you can see that a data sheet is really just a table of numbers, right? So there's nothing to be worried about, or it's nothing to throw you off, okay? So let's say this is the total number of cats, dogs, and fish we have in each of these respective cities, all right? And this is our data sheet. So what we wanna do is first, I wanna save this thing. And an important thing for you to do in data analysis, the important thing is you wanna know where your files are at all times so that you know where to set something called a directory, okay? So whenever you hear the word directory or working directory, that's really referring to what file is this thing in, right? And so let's just file, save as, and here the where is gonna be very important, right? Along with the file format. So these two things we're gonna kind of teach ourselves to keep track of, okay? I am gonna store everything in terms of our videos on the desktop because it's the easiest, and you can do it as well. In terms of file formats, the two file formats that I mentioned before were an Excel workbook, okay? And whatever file name you decide to give this, right? Let's call this thing animals because we're dealing with pets here, right? Or some of you can call it family because I know pets are part of the family. And so if we're calling this thing animals, if you're saving this as an Excel workbook, this file is called animals.xlsx. This is called the file extension, and this is how your computer and RStudio is going to identify what type of file it is. On the other hand, if you save it as a .csv, which is the other type of file, it's going to be animals.csv. That's going to be the name of your file, okay? And the thing to remember is, and it's this .csv, sorry about that, comma separated values. The thing to remember is when you are making plots and visuals, you want to keep this thing in terms of .xlsx, okay? If you're only dealing with numbers, purely values, then it's okay to save it as a .csv, okay? But anytime you're working with a CSV file, any visuals, plots, graphs that you make will not save, okay? So be careful on that. So let's save this first as a .csv for now, because we're only dealing with numbers, okay? And let's save that on our desktop, all right? And you see when you save things as a CSV, this notification comes up, possible data loss. That's because if we had any visuals or plots that we made in here, when you save this thing, those plots are not going to be there, okay? Versus if you save this as a .xlsx, let's try that, as a Microsoft or an Excel workbook .xlsx, you save that, right? It just saves. Okay? So that's enough about file types for now. Back to our data set, right? If we already have this data set, and now I wanted you, based on this data, to give me just the total number, right? I wanted you to add a column. Let's call this total, and I'm typing this. The total number of cats, dogs, and fish in each of these cities. So essentially, I'm just asking you to add up values from column B, column C, and column D for each of these cities, okay? And so I'm gonna click on the box or cell that I want to put the answer in, okay? And anytime you are, tip number 2, anytime you are trying to perform a function, trying to do math, do a calculation in any of these cells, you're always gonna start with an equal sign. That tells your cell, hey, we're about to do some stuff, okay? So I'm gonna start this with an equal sign. And notice now when I hover over these other cells, it's a hollow cross essentially that you can use to select, okay? And so now we're gonna click on cell B2 and notice that it says B2 for you, right? Now it's equals the value inside of B2. We're gonna manually type in plus, and now we're gonna click on the value for dogs, cell C2, right? The value in B2 plus the value stored in C2. Manually type in plus, one more. Click on cell D2, the value for fish, right? So now in cell E2, we are calculating the addition of all of these values. When you hit enter, it'll return it for you, okay? So 12 plus 39 plus 92 is 143. Notice that when you click on cell E2, the best way to figure out or check what is going on in that cell, you want to look up here in this field, okay? This field is always going to tell you what is going on inside of the cell that you've clicked on, all right? So in here, you're just adding the values in B2, C2, and D2. And this is a good time to mention that you are not adding 12 plus 39 plus 92, right? What you're adding is whatever is stored in this cell plus whatever is stored in this cell plus whatever is stored in here. So if I were to change, let's say I change 12 to 10, right? You're gonna expect 142 to reduce down to 141. So when I replace this with a 10 and I hit enter, notice that this value updates, okay? And so we did that for row 2 or for LA, right? And now we want to do the same operation for row 3, 4, and 5. Instead of typing that every time in each cell, all we have to do is take our mouse, go to this dark square on the right bottom side of the cell, and it's going to change into a filled in cross. You're going to left click, you're going to hold it, and you're going to drag it down to the last cell you want to calculate. When you let go, it automatically does that for every cell going down. And just to check again, you can click on cell E3 this time and see up here that you're adding the value in cell B3, C3, and D3. That's here, here, and here, okay? So this is how you do a simple operation, adding inside of Microsoft Excel, okay? And so in the next video, we'll go over how to get this into RStudio, and then we'll go over that, okay? So for now, if you understood this lesson, good job. If you're still working on it, it's totally fine, take your time. If you have any questions or comments as of right now, please leave them below and I'll get back to you as soon as possible, okay? Have a nice day, everyone.